Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth, its sacrament, and service, its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Amen.
Love will guide us, peace has guide us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through our night. If we cannot sing like angels, if we cannot speak for thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has dried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through our night.
It's so good to see you today. I had to make you this little video because I wanted to share something with you. So as I told you guys, I love bloopers. They just make me crack up. And my favorite bloopers are the ones of people who are doing the news and who mess up and then they crack themselves up and I get to laugh with them. I don't really like any bloopers where anybody gets hurt. The best part is when people are having fun messing up. Well, this past week, I saw a blooper that wasn't, the person wasn't laughing at themselves, but it was still so funny and so cute. And it was a man who's a lawyer who went onto Zoom and he had to, lawyers talk to judges. That's part of their job. And so it's very serious. And this man went on Zoom to present a case and he had a filter on that made him into a cat. So let's watch this.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
We're
a look.
trying to, can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat. Oh my gosh. I love that. I hope you enjoyed it. I couldn't make myself into a cat on Zoom, although I looked and I tried, but I did find some fun filters. The thing about doing so much online these days, going to school, visiting with friends, going to church, having family time, is that it can make us feel really awkward. Although I am getting used to it myself a little bit better, and I hope you are too. Being online so much has led to some really interesting mistakes, and that makes me think about how important it is that we not get really upset with ourselves when we make mistakes. This has been a really stressful time for everybody, and we've been having to do things in a really new way, and that's hard. So I wanted to make sure to tell you that even if you make mistakes sometimes, you're still a worthy and wonderful and lovable person. We all make mistakes. There's a Japanese philosophy that reminds us that there can be real beauty in our mistakes because they're what make us interesting and human. This philosophy is called wabi-sabi, and it's a hard expression to translate, but it has to do with the fact that everything changes and nothing is perfect. Japanese ceramic artists sometimes illustrate wabi-sabi by making sure that what they create is not too perfect. So what they'll do is they'll make a mistake on purpose, and then they'll fill in that mistake in the thing that they made with gold to show that the cracks, that the mistakes are beautiful. Aren't those beautiful? So are you. You are beautiful and special and beloved, even when you make a mistake and aren't perfect. So is everyone else. We're all a little cracked. Have a wonderful love day. Here's my heart to yours. Last week, Sarah Cecil was sharing her experience being part of the church, and she focused on the joy and the meaning she finds in being part of the choir, and serving also on leadership teams like the board. And she said something that was really important. What Sarah said was, there are lots of organizations that offer the kinds of programs that we do, programs of intellectual stimulation, opportunities to be engaged with social justice, opportunities to volunteer and be of service, programs for kids. All of those are something you can find in other places than a church. So what is it about a church that is unique? Well, one of the things she identified, and it's very true, and it's very important for us to recommit ourselves to, is that the church is where we do all of the things we do with a very strong sense of the importance of community to all of it. In fact, I have often said that the spiritual discipline of being in community is the most commonly practiced spiritual discipline among Unitarian Universalists, who may in fact have very different theologies and very different ways of expressing their spirituality. That's the one that we share in common, is that we are dedicated to being in relationship. There's a wonderful book by Anne Lamott called Traveling Mercies, where she describes being drawn into the relationship of church. And I just want to read a little bit of it from it for you. Now, she wasn't at all a religious or spiritual person, but she was having a really, really hard time in her life with drug addiction and especially alcoholism, and just a lot of pain, a lot of relationship failures. She was living alone. She had just had an abortion and felt very, very ill when she found herself venturing into a church called St. Andrews. She lives in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And this was a Black church near the marina where she was living on a houseboat. And she was drawn in by the singing. And when she initially started going to the church, she would just kind of creep in the back door and listen and then scuttle away before the sermon. Because to her, a sermon was just ridiculous. She didn't want to hear about all these religious ideas. But there was something about the voices of the people. Those voices, she said there was a choir of, I think, 6 people, 5 Black women and a white man she describes as looking, I think, like Ichabod Crane. So I just want to read to you what she says about why when she eventually had a child, soon after that, she became pregnant again, and she had her son, who's named Sam. And eventually she began to become very integrated with that congregation of St. Andrews and had him baptized there and became very, very deeply involved there. She says the main reason that she brings Sam to church is that I want to give him what I found in the world, which is to say a path and a little light to see by. Most of the people I know who have what I want, which is to say purpose, heart, balance, gratitude, joy, are people with a deep sense of spirituality. They are people in community who pray or practice their faith. They are Buddhists, Jews, Christians, people banding together to work on themselves and for human rights. They follow a brighter light than the glimmer of their own candle. They are part of something beautiful. I saw something once from the Jewish Theological Seminary that said, a human life is like a single letter of the alphabet. It can be meaningless, or it can be part of a great meaning. Our funky little church is filled with people who are working for peace and freedom, who are out there on the streets and inside praying, and they are home writing letters, and they are at the shelters with giant platters of food. When I was at the end of my rope, the people at St. Andrew tied a knot in it for me and helped me hold on. The church became my home in the old meaning of home, that it's where when you show up, they have to let you in. They let me in. They even said, you come back now. We are a people banded together to work on ourselves, and in the words of our covenant, to serve human need. And we do this as one generation of an institution that's been around for centuries to help people find that deeper meaning, to create that library out of the many single letters that join together. I want to tell you why I came up with the home base idea. It was several years ago now, probably 2017. Because I started to become aware that every time there is merely a rental agreement or a shared space agreement between a church and an organization, there's a lost opportunity there. I've just noticed over the years, every church I've ever served has had, for instance, 12-step groups meeting there. And I always stop in once or twice a year to introduce myself, to say, I'm Victoria Weinstein, I'm the minister here. I just want to greet you and say we're very glad to have you meet here. And so I greet them on behalf of myself and the congregation. And it's always very polite, and they smile and say, thanks for stopping in. But there is this sense that I'm maybe low-key proselytizing, and because it would not be at all appropriate for me to say, but listen, Unitarian Universalism is really different than any traditional religion that you might be acquainted with. I can't do that because they have a meeting to do and I can't really hold them hostage. So there's this missed opportunity for us to be in some kind of relationship. It's the same thing, it's similar anyway, to what was the reality for the Ocean Breeze community, a school that was started by our church and which was actually a program of our church, but which existed very much independently. It was very successful, but there was, again, this kind of nice to see you, very cordial, but when I gave a welcome one year, the parents kind of looked at me with these frozen smiles like, okay, the minister of the church is saying hello. Is this again? Is this like low-key pressure to become part of this church? Oh, I already belong to a church or religious organization, or I have no interest in joining a church. Is this, a sell? Also, and this is just the final example. Last week, I greeted lecturer Professor Richard Primack, who was to have given his talk about Walden, Concord, and climate change at the church in the building, in an event that was co-hosted, a wonderful collaboration here again by our Green Sanctuary Ministry team, the Salem Sound Coast Watch, and the Swampscott Conservatory. This was a hugely successful event. There were 97 people in attendance on Zoom. So I came on early to say hi to Professor Primack, and to introduce myself, and he kind of laughed and said, "Oh, hi, Reverend, are you going to give a blessing?" And I thought that's so classic. It's what people who are not acquainted with us just assume, because we are a religious, we're a church, we're a religious organization. So like he just assumed, I don't know what he thought, I was going to give a religious invocation over a lecture, but it wasn't time for me to say to him, no, why would I do that? I would never give a blessing on a lecture. What I ended up doing was just welcoming people, saying that it was unfortunate that we couldn't welcome them in our beautiful building in the snowy woods, to just say that Thoreau is a fascinating figure as a literary figure, as a Unitarian, and as an environmentalist. But that's what people think religion looks like. That's what they think religion sounds like. And that's what they fear all religious communities are like. Like one thing, a thing they've already decided they're not interested in being. And maybe they don't have any hostility toward it, but it's not for me. So we are missing opportunities for connection and for the spiritual growth and the kind of search for truth and meaning that is central to our faith tradition. Anne Lamott said that the people who have what she wants have purpose and follow a brighter light than their own little candle. I think you and I all know lots and lots of people who also want that. I know that Unitarian Universalist congregations have purpose. I know that we are committed to following that brighter light. We have among us a variety of spiritual philosophies, but I hope that surely we hold in common a sense of not only the brighter light, but the greater love that exists in the universe, that although it's hard to see or to access at times, dwells within each of us and is made stronger and manifests in a more powerful way when there are more of us. People are hesitant about religion for good reason. They're battle-scarred or irritated by it. They're disgusted by its hypocrisies. And even if they don't feel that way, even if they don't have a negative connotation or association with religion or churches, even in fact, if they have a sense of appreciation for what the church represents and what it accomplishes in their community, it won't occur to many people to think of themselves as churchgoers, as church people. They may, though, be artists, nature lovers, spiritual seekers, lifelong learners, and 12-steppers, to name just a few, who would really resonate with Unitarian Universalist values and who would be enriched by sharing a point of connection with us if they knew we were here. So let's not wait for them to find us one by one or family by family and join with the church in traditional ways. The point of our home base initiative is to promise ourselves that we're going to work to try to find those people, the groups, the organizations that would embrace an opportunity for mutual intentional engagement with our church. We are going, therefore, to try to find some of these people, some good partners, encourage them to find some ways and create ways for them to convene at 101 Forest Street when it's safe to do so, inside the building and outside on our beautiful grounds, so that we can build a stronger community of greater love in Greater Lynn.
Love has broken down the wall. Love has broken down the wall. Let us join our hearts as one. Love has broken down the wall. We're accepted as we are. We're accepted as we are. Through love's power, all is reconciled. We're accepted as we are. Cast aside your doubts and fears. Cast aside your doubts and fears. Peace and love freely offered you. Cast aside your doubts and fears. We will tear down the walls. We will tear down every wall. Love has called us one and all. Love